Okay. Move, please, you obnoxious thing.
Here, give you that.
No,
Sorry, not you, my wonderful viewers. I'm talking to the camera person. Who also happens to be Tamra, who was TTC's second participant who discussed Make Way for Tomorrow. Link to the video is in the description below. As you probably know by now, I'm PM Turner, and welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to the return of Teen Talk on Classic Criterion. Today's participant is my amazing friend, Rebekah!
Hi.
Who is Tamra's sister, and who has been wanting to do a Teen Talk episode for a long time. So, I'm very pleased to finally have you with us, Rebekah.
It's been eons.
So let's jump right in and discuss the 1979 classic, The Black Stallion. Criterion spine number 765 and directed by Carol Ballard, starring Kelly Reno, Mickey Rooney, and a prize-winning Arabian stallion by the name of Cass Olay as the Black. So, Rebekah, to start off with, give me your initial thoughts on the film.
I feel like it's kind of a good movie to pick as something for more of a nostalgic sense, because I guess I watched it first when I was really little, and so I've watched it several times since then. It's kind of one of those more nostalgic movies where it's kind of easier for smaller kids to understand something like a classic like that.
Yeah, that's actually really cool. So did it hook you right from the beginning, or did it take you a while to get into the story?
So in the beginning, it started out like the little boy was standing there around. My dad kind of made fun of how he looked like he was about to jump off and kill himself. No, I said kill himself. My dad just kind of made fun of how he was about to fall off. So it was a little mundane for the first few minutes, but I feel like it started getting more interesting, especially when you got the tiny little horse Bucephalus. Mm-hmm. That's its name, I think. It's a little black horse from this weird ancient story that's not true. And so I feel like that just tied together the theme really nicely, and I was a little disappointed that when I read your little extra thing in the cover, it says that the little tiny horse wasn't in the book.
Oh, you read that in the Criterion essay insert. That's
yes. So I feel like that it ties into a nice little theme, and that's when it started getting more interesting, because you've got that foreshadowing. Yeah. And especially during the fire scene, that I feel like would catch everyone's attention.
For sure. And there's gonna be a random dog walking on set. Why?
Oh. Yeah. Gonna be a superstar.
Everyone welcome PM Turner's dog, Chewbacca.
No, it's Chewie. Or Tutu. Don't puke on me.
I am a classics fanatic, not a Star Wars fan. Anyway, moving on. Oh, would you like to participate on Teen Talk on Classic Criterion?
Yes.
Okay. Moving forward, talk to me about the cinematography. What stood out to you about this film and the way it was shot?
Well, I liked a lot of the island scenes, especially when he was swimming in the little cove with all the little fishies, and the way they just portrayed the coral down there. Mm-hmm. But the fire scene was kind of I feel like they could have portrayed more how the fire would have kept traveling along the ship and not just staying in an area. But other than that, I feel like the cinematography was pretty good. During the racing scenes, the camera was a little bit shaky, in my opinion, but overall, it was fairly well done.
Well said. And to me, this is one of my favorite movies purely for beautiful cinematography, especially in the island scenes. And unfortunately, the cinematographer of this film was never nominated for an Oscar for Best Cinematography.
So, the movie was pretty quiet, overall. I feel like, there wasn't much for him to do on the island. Maybe he could have cried a little more. Your father died, you were abandoned on an island, and there was a wild horse that might kill you. So, I feel like he probably could have cried a little bit more. And maybe he could have talked to himself. He's a little boy. He's perfectly capable of doing that, and being normal for it.
It's true.
So, but overall, it was kind of quiet.
Quite frankly, I think the long stretches of silence was one of the things that made the film stand out and that made it very interesting. And the record in the film for the longest stretch with no dialogue spoken is actually 28 minutes, so nearly a full half hour. So The Black Stallion was actually based on a famous young adult novel. Have you ever read the book?
Actually, no, I have not. Like I was mentioning earlier, that the little tiny horse Bucephalus wasn't in that, but that tied along the theme really well, and so it gave a lot of foreshadowing, which is very helpful in movie plots and books.
Right, fair enough. And actually, I haven't read the book either. So talk to me about the acting for a minute here. What did you think of Mickey Rooney's performance? Because he is a phenomenal classic actor who always brought so much energy to every role, and he always really stood out as a performer.
Well, personally, I feel like he kind of blended with the rest of the characters. The acting was overall really good, so I didn't see that any one person really kind of stood out. I feel like it was like pretty good. I wouldn't say he necessarily stood out, but he was kind of normal, I guess.
Gotcha. And speaking of acting... Not you, my wonderful viewers, the camera person.
Guys.
Speaking of acting, what did you think of the performance of Cassoulet as the Black Stallion? Now that was a horse who could act.
I feel like it's kind of cool that they can train animals to act like that, especially when clearly the horse was fairly nice. They just portrayed him as being wild.
Right.
And I thought that was kind of cool. I love the way that they used a like really black horse, and you could tell it was shiny, because I like horses like that.
Yeah, definitely. Actually, it's listed under the trivia for this movie on IMDb, the Internet Movie Database, that this horse responded to acting cues unlike any other that the people had worked with. Just like you were saying, it is amazing how they can train an animal to do these things. And so this horse, Cassoulet, would actually get angry and become nice and loving again, all on cue.
That's really cool.
Yeah, definitely. And so some of the trainers who worked with this horse later on stated that we've never before seen a horse that wanted to be an actor.
That's kind of cool.
Yeah. So that just about wraps it up for now. Rebekah, before we close, was there anything else you would like to add?
Well, I feel like it was a pretty good movie overall, and I definitely recommend watching it if you're into more of those nostalgic movies. It definitely has that kind of feel to it.
Yeah, and it's a very family-friendly film that can not only be enjoyed and understood by younger kids, but also appreciated by older teens and adults alike. And I read that studio heads, at the time this film was completed, did not feel the same way. Shoved the project for 2 whole years after completion, complaining, "What is this, an art film for kids?" And that it might be. It is, in its own way, a cool little art house film, but not just for kids. So, I recommend this film as well. It is extremely enjoyable. Yes, sparse and quiet in places, but a rewarding viewing experience nonetheless. Rebekah, it was a pleasure having you on TTCC. It was a lot of fun, and thank you for being here.
Yeah, thank you for having me here. I've been looking forward to it.
Absolutely. This is PM Turner of Old Hat Cinema. I will see y'all in the next video, and until then, stay cool, stay classic. As I said earlier, my favorite thing about this film is without a doubt the cinematography. Plus Mickey Rooney, of course, because he's always enjoyable. Rebekah was a very fun participant whom I enjoyed having on TTCC, and in hopes of making up for the 2 months in which there was no TTCC, I'm hoping to post 2 this month. 1 today, on the 1st of the month, and hopefully 1 on the last day of March. As always, I'm your host, PM Turner, and please remember to enter the like button in the Kentucky Derby and subscribe to Old Hat Cinema.